Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media, where we're decoding the Trump tweets. This is for June 21st, 2018. The first tweet, Thomas, reads, "The real big story that affects everybody in America is the success of POTUS's tax cut package and what it's done for our economy." And below it is a clip from the Barney and Company show. If you want to follow along to read these tweets or even see the videos we reference, then just click on the link in the description box and you can follow along while you listen to our audio.
And happy solstice to you, Bets. This is so indicative of the mainstream media. They don't report it, but we actually have the largest historic gains in every area, historic projections, historic economic success, and this whole video for 45 seconds goes into that. But the point is it's not reported anywhere. They'd rather report on a child who's crying, who wasn't taken from anyone, that they put on the front of Time magazines, than the fact that we are doing so good that the other countries that were basically harassing us because we were taking away their bottle from their mouth as babies because they're sucking America dry, they're all crying. Now, no, Trump is winning on all those fronts with the tariffs, with the trade wars, and if this Congress would simply back out and let the president do what he's so good at doing, the success that we've seen from these current tax cuts may affect as much as $5 trillion. And remember, he's just getting started. Elect him a second term, and you'll have a bigger tax cut that will do twice as much.
Okay. The next tweet. "I was thrilled to be back in Minnesota for a round table with hardworking American patriots. Thank you." And then there is a short little clip of Minnesota and the meeting.
Yes, the steel country, iron country. So he's up there with basically the steel industry and with the workers having a round table, just like you haven't ever really seen any other president do. Other presidents set up these things as just really, they're just PR events. He sets them up to actually gain from the meetings and listen. He listens. Unbelievable. Name a president that ever listened. Presidents don't listen, and that's what we see him doing. He goes out, and when he does these things, he's like a real businessman. He knows that complaints should drive improvement in a business. And so when he's out on the street and he's out meeting people and he's in these meetings, he's constantly bringing back information that he's going to then change his mind. You see, he's not a president who's working out of a stuck ideology, which is fake and phony. He's working out of a morphing sense of what America is and what it can be. And folks, what we've already seen in this short period of time is historic. What are we going to see in the future if he could actually be backed by real Republicans in the Senate and Congress?
And we're going to get on to that in the tweets in a few minutes about all of his recommendations. The next tweet is about the Farm Bill, just passed in the House. So happy to see work requirements included. Big win for the farmers. What do you see in that tweet that maybe a casual read would not show you, Thomas?
Well, you see, when you say the Farm Bill, it has something to do with the farm, but it has to do with children's meals. Do you realize that children are fed breakfast, lunch, and dinner in schools, and taxpayers pay for that? Do you realize that these nutrition programs are insane, so that we have to pay a fortune in a school for those programs? It is an amazing thing that that's part of the Farm Bill. It's an amazing thing that one of the biggest parts of entitlement is food stamps. And this is connected to the Farm Bill. Why would that be? Why do these things get glued together? It's just the way that the Congress works to make sure that everything is confusion, that it's a lie, and it's a distractor. I will vote for the bill only if I get my addition onto it, which has nothing to do with the bill. So what's happening with Mike Mulvaney and the way that they're restructuring the entire federal agencies has every impact upon this Farm Bill. The most important thing here is, you want food stamps? Oh, well, I forget what the percentage is, but certainly less than half the time, way less than half the time, some people may have to work if they are capable of working, and they're getting food stamps as just a temporary fix. Because what happens then? As soon as Trump became president, food stamps went to their lowest usage in decades. And now it's going to go to even lower because he's going to require that you're actually a real person, that you really show up for them, and not just, given this benefit through a plastic card in a continuing system that may never even be checking on whether you're a human being, you're alive, whether you're real, whether you're working or anything else. So much fraud ended the second Trump started redoing these systems. And so if it gets through the Senate, which will be difficult, they'll tack all kinds of other things onto it. They'll change it up. But what could still happen is that we could see some of these entitlement programs actually become less fraudulent. And that would save huge amounts of money. We're talking about $800 billion. So we're talking about massive changes. And we're seeing that throughout the whole federal system because of these changes that Trump ordered and have now started to take place since the 1st of June.
Well, Trump is an entrepreneur. I mean, he didn't get where he is today in his business life by not applying the principles of growing your business, making things better, more efficient. And most important, he is looking at citizens as consumers of government. And so he wants to streamline and make it more efficient. And actually, if you can believe it, the government would work for the people. The next tweet is about the big Supreme Court win on internet sales tax. About time. Big victory for fairness and for our country. Great victory for consumers and retailers.
This is so powerful. This could end the monopoly of Jeff Bezos. It could end many monopolies, and it will give back to the states, the counties, and the cities the taxes that they deserve that are taken out because of the centralized nature of the internet. The internet, remember those people, those monopolies in the internet, Jeff Bezos pays no taxes. Let's not forget that. So he doesn't only not pay federal taxes, he doesn't pay state taxes either in some cases. In some cases they do, in some cases they don't. So this is not, it is not created in a way that can actually work. And so they had to redo this. And it's huge. And I'm glad that the Supreme Court did this. This is the second big decision recently that the Supreme Court made that was really good.
Now, some of the pushback that I've seen are for people who have small retail presence online. And from what I'm reading, there will be caps, that if your business is 100,000 or less, this wouldn't affect you. And there are things that will be there to protect the small vendor who's on the internet. This is really directed at the large one.
Yes, and it's basically trying to take down those people who aren't paying any taxes because of essentially loopholes between the states. And so this is codifying it so that we can actually not harm the small retailers, just as you pointed out, and not harm the consumer, and then also collect from these monopolies that aren't paying their taxes.
Okay, in the next tweet, and it says, "I really don't care. Do you?" Written on the back of Melania's jacket refers to the fake news media. Melania has learned how dishonest they are, and she truly no longer cares. Well, the media went wild with this one, but I have to tell you, what I thought when I first saw it? I thought she was just kind of writing a note on her back for Donald saying, and I thought they were talking about what they wanted for dinner. You know how it is with couples. People talk about, what do you want for dinner tonight? I don't know. I don't care. What do you want? Okay? But apparently it wasn't. She was calling out fake news. At least this is what POTUS says. Now, I like that because I'm always saying that you need to be a patriot entrepreneur. Remember, the enlightenment and the education that we need to be providing to fellow citizens doesn't always have to come through a digital platform. If you can put up a billboard, if you can wear a funny shirt or a jacket, if you can make a sign, put a billboard on your car. I am seeing so much imagination and creativity out there with the way that people are expressing their new love for America and to MAGA.
For the Queen of Fashion to wear something that looked like it was spray painted, a message like a graffiti on a wall, was shocking to me. I didn't know what it meant. I still don't know what it means, but I know what Trump means here. He's basically saying Melania, the attacks of Peter Fonda on Melania and Barron and her husband should have put him in jail. The attacks on her saying that Trump had beat her up. The attacks on her saying that all these horrible lies and accusations and speculation from the mainstream media is just so awful. It probably was getting to her. And then she realized, oh, no, that's not media. That's a lie machine. They're there to do nothing but lie. Period. Period. Nothing but lie, folks. They don't tell you any truth anymore at all because they're all focused on Trump and it's all negative. So she's basically giving them the finger, essentially, because she's finally realized, like I did years ago, they used to interview us all the time, and they'd take the beginning of one sentence, the middle of another one, and the end of another one, and glue them together to make the opposite of what we said. And we would watch this again and again and again and again. It was like, wait a second, isn't this illegal? Well, yes, it is, because that is intended deceit, which is illegal. You cannot broadcast with intended vulgar deceit. So to say that Melania was beaten by her husband, and that's the reason that when she was having her kidney worked on, that...
Oh, really? I didn't hear that.
Oh, they said it everywhere.
How ugly that is?
Oh, they said it everywhere. They said she wouldn't come out in public because she was beaten by him. Oh, she said that... Oh, the accusations, you don't listen to it. Sometimes I have to go listen to the other side.
Because it's such lies.
Because I want to see how big the lies are. The lies get bigger by the day. And so she's basically just responding to them saying, you just make up the biggest lies there are. Nobody is listening to you anymore. I can put something on my back and it will make it on the news. And what I'm doing is I'm insulting you. And the mainstream media didn't even know they were insulted, and they put it all over, and then they speculated. You were being given the finger because you're all a bunch of lying scumbags, and you didn't even know it. You were still manipulated by the Trumps because they're manipulating you. Don't you get it?
Well, isn't that interesting? Because I very rarely go into sites that I know are just outright lying sites, and so I don't see that perspective. Now, I will go as far as, some of the regular media channels. I won't name them. Don't want to beat up anybody here, but you get a little distortion, but you don't get the lies like that. That's just disgusting. All right. We have to maintain strong borders, or we will no longer have a country that we can be proud of. And if we show any weakness, millions of people will journey into our country.
He keeps repeating it. He's not going to let up on the immigration issue. And if you look at even Breitbart, half of the articles, main headlines, are bashing Trump with negative headlines. And he has to keep hammering on this because of the fantastic lies. He's going to have to hammer to break through this. But even if he hammers on this until November, which is what he probably hopes, and that's the reason he keeps hammering on it. Remember, whatever he hammers on with his tweets crumbles, and they start to defend themselves. And then when they defend themselves and they attack him, then they crumble more. So he's not going to let up. So what did Pelosi come out and say? Everybody gets across the border. So what does he say? Just like radical Islamic terrorists, he now says extremists, open borders, Democrats. Open borders means you're a criminal, and an extremist means you're a fascist. And to say that we shouldn't have a border and we shouldn't have anybody locked up who comes across and commits a felony to enter this country, even if they're a felon from Mexico, also demonstrating that Mexico broke its own immigration laws to let those people leave their country, not through a port of departure or into a port of entry into our country, cooperating with us, just shows that Mexico is criminal. And people want to do a NAFTA agreement between Canada and us and Mexico. Mexico is in a war. 2 more mayors were murdered yesterday. That's like 120 political figures are simply assassinated when they don't vote and do what the cartel says. Okay? The cartels. They're ruled by the cartels, and we don't think we need a border. He says millions more are going to come in. 1 million in a year come in that are documented illegals. Those are the documented illegals. And in just the last few years, it's 400,000 children. 200,000 children in 1 year were pushed up to the border. By whom? Who brought those children to the border? And then what did we do with them? That Obama took them and turned them into slave trade. He put them into our social service systems where 85% of the missing children in America come from. Basically, human trafficking. Under the auspices of the Catholic Church or many other organizations, which we've now been pointing out on Truth News Headlines and other places, these organizations are paid lots of money to do what? To have children come up missing. That's what they do. And who are those children? Why are those healthy children? You ever notice, why are the children coming across the border healthy? Anyone ever ask that? because those are the only ones who can make it. Those are the ones who are sold into human slave trafficking. Those aren't their parents, folks. Those aren't their parents. No parent who is documented would come to our border. If they had documentation, they'd go to one of the 10 places in Mexico and reach asylum, get asylum from that U.S. embassy or that U.S. immigration office, and then come across at a port of entry legally. Every single person at the border that has any documentation proving that who they are and who their child is, they are not going to be separated. That is stupid. That's never been the law. So the law is the child has to be separated from the person that they're with for 20 days because they can't be held with these criminals who aren't their parents. This is so stupid what is going on, but it's a beautiful opportunity for the Republicans to show their compassion, for Trump to write an executive order that makes him look like a hero.
Which leads right into the next tweet. You cannot pass legislation on immigration, whether it be for safety and security or any other reason, including heart, without getting Dem votes. Problem is, they don't care about security, and ours do. 0 Dems voted to support the Goodlatte bill. They won't vote for anything.
And they won't vote for Ryan's bill, Paul Ryan's bill. They're not going to vote for any bill. And Schumer says they're not getting one single vote in the Senate. And up here later, he points out that, it's not, even if it got to the Senate, it isn't passing the Senate because Schumer has blocked it and has promised even a filibuster. So what was this? This was virtuous signaling for the Democrats, but it didn't work for them. It showed they're not for anyone. They're not for immigration. They're not for amnesty. They're not for anything. They're just obstructionists. And then you have Ryan trying to, win some favor as a great hero, because he was, ran as vice president. Oh, he should be the next president because he wants to give full amnesty to 22 million illegal felons in this country. That's all that was, folks. And so neither the Ryan bill nor the Goodlatte bill will ever get out of the House. Never. These immigration bills will never get passed by Democrats. They don't want them passed.
Next tweet. Our great judge, Jeanine Pirro, is out with a new book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy, which is fantastic. Go get it. Sometimes
she sounds just like us, just ranting and raving against the very things that we're hammering against. So sometimes she just gets, an A+. So I hope her book is good. It sounds good. Liars, Leakers, and Liberals.
Okay.
Beautiful.
The next tweet is, even if we get 100% Republican votes in the Senate, we need 10 Democrat votes to get a much-needed immigration bill. And the Dems are obstructionists who won't give votes for political reason and because they don't care about crime coming from border. So we need to elect more R's.
That's another push. You see how he's linking immigration to the election always, over and over again. And he shows you that it isn't a Republican issue. It is a Democratic issue, both in the House and in the Senate.
Elect more Republicans in November, and we will pass the finest, fairest, and most comprehensive immigration bills anywhere in the world. Right now, we have the dumbest and the worst. Dems are doing nothing but obstructing. Remember their motto, resist, in big caps. Ours is produce, in big caps.
And there you have it. That's really the bottom line of what's going on in our country. The Democrats are still in a resistance led by a bunch of corrupt people who were in the White House and had a very corrupt administration with Hillary, while Trump comes in and then he shows that everything that they said was all untrue. It's all lies. He is able to produce. He's able to make the economy produce. He's able to make all these things work out and nothing but winning. And what is going on in the Congress? They are screaming for DACA and poor children being torn away from their parents at the border and all these sad, sad things that usually get the heartstrings of people to vote for Democrats. But it is not working. Sorry, folks. People want someone in the White House who can produce. That's why we elected him. You forget that. And the more you insult him, the more you insult us, and the greater his base grows, and the more Republicans you make. Every day, Pelosi and Schumer, keep on preaching your evil, that you don't care about any immigrants except for votes. And we're just going to watch you turn into a completely insignificant party.
The next tweet: Republicans should stop wasting their time on immigration until after we elect more senators and congressmen and women in November. Dems are just playing games, have no intention of doing anything to solve this decades-old problem. We can pass great legislation after the red wave.
The red magma wave is the red wave of Republicans winning in the midterms. The blue wave, there's a rumor it's coming, but right now it looks like the doldrums, and there's no wind, and there's no wave, and no blue wave. Sorry. And every time that Trump sees a Dem that looks like he's going to do good, he just tweets out against him, and they just fall off their surfboard because there's no waves.
Well, what he has with these tweets is influence. One tweet could be worth millions of what George Soros would spend to try to get voters to the polls and rig elections, but Trump can do the same with a single tweet. But that's because we're united and we're behind him at this point in history where we need to get America set on the right course. And I bring that up because the next 3 tweets are recommendations from POTUS on who he would like to see on the Trump team. And it's going to be Governor Henry McMaster, Congresswoman Martha Roby, and Congressman Ron Santos. So let's examine each of these. Governor Henry McMaster is a truly fine man who loves the people of South Carolina. He was one of my very early supporters and truly helped me to a big South Carolina victory. I will see you all in South Carolina on Monday, and Vice President Pence will be there for Henry on Saturday.
Wow, they really want McMaster's in. With that much concentration, I can't help but think that that guy just might as well be elected. They could just cancel the election. And that's what it's going to be in the future, that these things will be such a huge red wave, especially if Trump goes there and then Pence follows up. So it must be a pretty tight victory, a pretty tight battle. And what we're seeing here is that the Republicans have planks. The Democrats have nothing. What is any Democrat that you've seen in any election touting? What can they say they've done? What can they say they're going to do? Or what can they say anything except anti-Trump? Nothing. That's it. They actually have no planks. They have no platform. They have nothing to say. And just listen to Pelosi. All she can ever scream is evil, evil. Whatever Trump does, it's evil. And Schumer, I will absolutely resist to the filibuster, and we will never.
Well, they're dinosaurs. They need to go. You know, this is why we need term limits. We don't need our elected representatives to be so old and ensconced in the old ways. You know, the government, as Mike Mulvaney has pointed out, hasn't been overhauled in over a century. And we're living in a brand new world, and so we need to make our government more efficient. So he's working to get all this reorganized, which is really good, and that's what we need to see. We need to see some reorganization. The next tweet is Congresswoman Martha Roby of Alabama has been a consistent and reliable vote for our Make America Great Again agenda. She is in a Republican primary runoff against a recent Nancy Pelosi voting Democrat. I fully endorse Martha for Alabama 2nd Congressional District.
Yeah, go for it. And that's just another going to be feather in her cap. So as this proceeds, the track record of who voted for MAGA is going to get them elected or reelected. And that's just the way it's going to be. No one in their right mind can stand against what they've seen Trump do. The successes. No one. And so Democrats, they can't fight that. Republicans, all they have to do is be on the side of these amazing, historic, forward-moving benchmarks that I don't know, only a Trump or someone like him could even go beyond these benchmarks. How are we going to go beyond projections of 4.8 GDP? I mean, how are we going to go beyond what we have? If we do, folks, we're just going to have to start giving your taxes back to you. We're just not going to be able to charge you for income tax because we're going to be winning so much. For instance, let me give you one little idea. I say at the end of this year, what was supposed to be a deficit budget will be a surplus because we are bringing in more taxes, and because of all these historic economic leaps, quantum leaps, we're getting more taxes historically than anybody's ever seen. we could end up with a surplus. If that happens, who in their right mind would not support the Republicans and MAGA?
Yeah. Okay, next one. Congressman Ron DeSantis, a top student at Yale and Harvard Law School, is running for governor of the great state of Florida. Ron is strong on borders, tough on crime, and big on cutting taxes, loves our military and our vets. He will be a great governor and has my full endorsement.
Getting these governors aligned with the president is absolutely critical. There's the Conference of Governors. There's these governors groups that when they meet, they are actually the most powerful group of people meeting in America. And when they get aligned with Trump, whether they're Democrat or Republican, but if we can get them to be Republicans, we begin to have so much power that we could actually change the entire way that the propaganda media is working, the way that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce actually disperses their money and controls Congress, so on and so forth. We can actually change these things if we can get the governors in place, because then we can push back to all the states with the governor's support the things that Trump wants to stop as being the job of the federal government, which is it's an overreach. The federal government is a gigantic overreach, 4.5 million people. Mike Mulvaney is cutting that down. I hope he cuts it down to half and pushes those jobs out to these new governors that Trump is supporting.
Yes, get everything back to the states again. Now, we're not just Trump tweet readers. We are decoders. And when you look at these three, I can't help but notice that there is a name that's not here that I want to talk about. And who I am talking about is Mike Kennedy and Mitt Romney, who have a runoff on the 26th for Utah Senate. Why would you think that maybe Mitt's not on this list?
Because Mitt is running now his covert activity campaign, because the overt campaign was smashed and just scrunched into the dirt of Utah, because nobody wants him. This previous governor of Massachusetts, this crooked lawyer, this unbelievably crooked banker. Bain Capital received the money of Velmet Bank, which ripped off the USSR. He is as crooked as anybody could be. He put up the money for the QRS-11. Okay, this man is right there with the rogue CIA. He is a Bush family member. The Bush criminal, rogue CIA, White House family cabal is his family. No one could get any more corrupt than unfit Mitt. And he's slimy. So what did he do? When he couldn't get through the primaries properly, he went and people literally said, well, there's one other way that he can get in, but it's going to cost him a lot of money. He basically has to go pay off every single person in the Utah party. And that's what he did. He got in his old beat-up car and put a bunch of cash in the back, and he went to every single district, met with those people personally. Why would you do that? Why would you do that if you're supposed to be the most powerful, wonderful, incredible Republican in America who should have been the president? No, he's a loser. Why did he do that? Well, what do you think was in the back of that old car, in the trunk of that car, folks? Why do you think he went driving to every single payoff of every Republican political operative that he needed to sway, so that then his name could still appear in the primary, even though he didn't make it into the primary? Yeah, that's right. I'm pointing out that, once again, payoffs. What's the number one, one of the top places, one of the top states where the payoffs happen? Massachusetts. That's where he did most of his business, though. Where is he from? Who is this guy?
Well, you say who he is, and if you click on the link below, I'm going to put our really good article on Unfit Mitt, so you don't have to go into it for 2 hours, okay? Because we have that, and it's explosive, and we're really counting on the people of Utah, if you are Republican, to put your vote in now for Mike Kennedy, because this is another dinosaur that we need to see gone. You know, we're busy cleaning the swamp. The last thing we need to do is throw another creature back into it that we already know, with his proven track record, is one of the leaders of the swamp.
He is right there with Robert Mueller, with James Comey, with Michael Horowitz, Rod Rosenstein. These guys have been part of the Rose Law Firm, Little Rock, Arkansas, Clinton group since the late 70s, stealing patents, controlling our country, building backdoors into all things that go onto the internet, or in basically it's the cyber warfare, it's the weaponization of our technology against us. That's who these people are. This is who Mitt Romney is. He's right there with them. We have it in the report, so I won't go into it in more detail. But when they have to call Mitt Romney back, that's because they are bankrupt and they intend to run Mitt against Trump.
Yeah.
He will lose, but that's
probably
intend.
why they set up Romney McDaniels as the head of the GOP.
Precisely.
I mean, really, come on. She's a Romney. She's in the end, it's just going to be, oh, you know how that works. And then all of a sudden, Romney's our candidate. And we got to put the Romney thing to bed now. So we're counting on you, Utahns, to do what you need to do. If you don't live in Utah and you know somebody in Utah, make sure they get the word.
Don't send unfit Mitt to D.C. He is a swamp creature beyond imagination, and we don't need him fouling up the air there.